walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. Yeah, we're lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page, but we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay. Mississippi racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay. Red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine, whether you're live on Facebook, live on YouTube, live on Twitter. Ooh, adding new things to the morning intro.
Wow.
I know, right? Or if you were live on Roku TV, thanks to the fine people at Northeast Sports Productions. We are happy to have you here on a Monday morning. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, no longer wearing the retro gear from last week. That is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing fine, and I'm not wearing the retro because we've reached a truce. So I'm going to leave her things alone, and she will leave my things alone. So there we are. Coming off a great Mother's Day weekend, by the way. My mother-in-law loves seafood, and she didn't want to make a big deal about Mother's Day, so she wanted to go to Red Lobster. So Red Lobster is where we went, and everybody at least appeared to have a great time. I love seafood, so it was right in my bag. So we really had a good time.
And they have good biscuits.
My daughter will only eat those. She ate a bundle while she was there and took some home with her.
There you go. She knows how to do it. She knows the plan. Mo, this week is everything the NFL does turns to gold. How do you know? Because no other league can tease their schedule release the way the NFL does. Sure, the NBA can do a little bit of a similar type deal, but the NBA has been hyping up, the NFL has been hyping up their schedule release for about 2 weeks now, and then you know what happens. You start to get little nuggets, and then as a fan of a team for like 2 or 3 days, you're just all over trying to figure out which game lines up where. Is it an early game? Is it a late game? Is it a Monday night game? Like that's literally what you do for 2 or 3 days. It's ridiculous, but we all do it. Well, the first nugget, if you will, has been given to us from the NFL schedule. These Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. It's a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. That is the opener. That is going to happen Thursday night, week number 1 in Arrowhead. Mo, big stage for both of those teams. Obviously, an NFL season is not lost in one game, but if you are a Ravens fan, and I will say this, and people know that I am very critical at times of Lamar Jackson, and I will hold true with what I'm about to say right here. I think it is a bigger game for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens than it is for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Ravens are a team last year that were easily expected to be the Super Bowl representative from the AFC. The Chiefs had a tumultuous year up and down with their offense. Travis Kelce looked old at times. The Chiefs were going to have to go on the road in the playoffs for the first time ever. Oh no, the sky was falling for the kingdom. And then over there in Baltimore was perp walking teams, good teams, playoff caliber teams.
Yes.
By double-digit points, by 2+ touchdown scores multiple times. I believe it was to the tune of 7 times last season. They beat quality teams by double-digit points. At home, on the road, it didn't matter. And then they play Kansas City in the playoffs, and it's kind of the same old story. It's Patrick Mahomes, it's the Chiefs, it's back-to-back Super Bowls. So I know we're a long way away from it, Mo, But I'm going to say right now, a season is not won or lost in one game. But this game means a lot more to the Baltimore Ravens than it does to the Kansas City Chiefs. Because if the Chiefs win, it's much of the same. The world keeps spinning. Ravens fans will say whatever. It's the first game of the season. It's the Chiefs. We'll see you in the playoffs. But if the Ravens win that game, Mo, now they feel a lot better about themselves. Now you look at it and you're like, okay, they've proven that it's only week 1, but they knocked off the Chiefs. It looks like they're geared up for it again. So again, nothing's won or lost in 1 week, but for me, it's bigger for the Ravens.
And like you said, in the NFL, it's not all won in 1 week, but the NFL is not like the NBA or MLB. Every week counts. There's only 17 weeks of football, and every week counts. That's not only just a game; it's also a division game. It's a big game for the Ravens, not a division game. I look at it this way: it really does matter to the Ravens because you're looking at Kansas City, who actually retooled, added more weapons. You're actually going to be beating a more loaded Kansas City team if you're able to get the win. And I want to remind everybody, in that playoff game, I thought the Ravens defense looked every bit as good as it was advertised to be. They were terrific. The guy that you said that you criticized at times, and I think I have too as well, is Lamar Jackson. And I thought Lamar Jackson and the offense came up short. So it is a hurdle that you have to get over. Beating the Kansas City Chiefs in a regular season game, it might not mean everything to everybody, but I think that when you look at your organization, when you look at your history, I think there are mental hurdles that you have to get over, and beating the defending champions, sending a message that we're a different team. It's week 1, but we're a different team. I think it does matter. If Kansas City wins again, what are we going to say? Like, well, it's the Chiefs, right? This is what they do. They come in and the other team's hyped up, and Patrick Mahomes and company walks out with the win. It absolutely matters to John Harbaugh. It matters to Lamar Jackson. It matters to the Ravens organization to come out and start the season off, not just on a positive note, but beating the team that stopped them from going to the Super Bowl.
And not to mention the team that they are most likely going to have to go through in the playoffs this upcoming season if they want to get to the Super Bowl themselves.
Sure.
Because I said it before and I'll say it again, 2 years ago, it wasn't going to be the Chiefs' year. They lost Tyreek Hill. They had a really young defense. Everything was lining up for it to not be their year. They win the chip. Last year was definitely not going to be their year. No offense, no weapons. Guys can't catch the football on the road for the playoffs. Mahomes looks a little inconsistent towards the end of the season. Oh, they win a chip. So, and I think that we're going to see a version of the team this year that is better than both of those previous versions.
Agreed.
So, obviously, anything can happen in an NFL season. We're not going to crown them before they actually get crowned themselves. But I don't know if we're going to see a worse version of the Chiefs than we've seen the past 2 seasons. And those were championship versions of the Chiefs. So, we'll see. More NFL schedule stuff is going to be happening all week. The official drop, I believe, is on the 15th, which would be the middle of the week. You know, nothing says getting us through a hype day or hump day like the NFL schedule drop.
For sure.
So looking forward to that. Also looking forward to this. JG is on the show right now. We got Major League Baseball stuff to talk about. We got college stuff to talk about because JG was doing some things with his crew last week that we need to catch up on. Let's welcome JG in. JG, how are you this morning, sir?
Doing good. How are you guys doing this morning?
Hey, morning, JG.
JG, let's start with you. How did the weekend go? How is the squad looking? Conference play is taking place. Where are we at?
So we did not finish the way that we were hoping for. We won our first game pretty well on Thursday, and then we ran into 2 buzzsaws. We one of the teams that competed in the championship in our conference tournament. We lost on Friday. We weren't able to recover very well from that from the next day and ended up losing again. It was a little bit of a heartbreaking game. Kind of broke our spirit in a way on Friday, and we just didn't really recover. We battled, but at the end of our season ended on Saturday. Very emotional, I would say. Particularly for me, being with the team for the first year with them, and and be able to see and experience so much with that group. I told the boys so much. I appreciated everything that they've been able to do and the work they put in this year. But unfortunately, our season ended on Saturday. We did not get to compete for the conference championship like we were hoping for. But it's something that you got to live and learn through, and you got to make sure that you put the time in over the off season to get yourself ready and experience and taking the experience and utilize it for next year.
And JG, it sounds like, because you've been updating us all throughout the season, it sounds like y'all got a nice foundation over there.
Yeah, there's I'll say there is some changes as far as for me. I'll actually go ahead and tell you I have got an offer at another school coming up, and a bigger opportunity. So I'm kind of
congratulations.
I appreciate it. So bigger role, bigger school. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to be I'm just kind of waiting a little bit longer to put the official word out there on it. But the position has been accepted by me, so I'm just kind of waiting a little bit more just to get all the final details done, and I'll be posting about it as far as where I'll be heading to in the fall of in August.
And Mo, let's just say it all started here. He was just that random coach that was just coming on our morning show on his way to D1 stardom.
Just remember the little people on your way up, JG.
I always do, guys.
JG, let's talk a little Major League Baseball, shall we? We always talk about debuts here, and this one was a pretty gosh darn good one. Paul Skeens makes his Major League Baseball debut, and I think he was as advertised. I think he went out there and threw 17 or 18 pitches, over 100 miles per hour or over 101 miles per hour, something ridiculous like that. He looked good in the process. What did you see from him? What do you think the rest of his season is going to be? Obviously, he came out with a cannon, but at the same time, he does play for a team that isn't the greatest, so that's going to impact him a little bit as we push on here. But what did you make of his debut, and then what do you kind of project from him for the rest of the season?
I mean, watching Paul at LSU all last year, it did not surprise me from what we saw from him, because exactly what we saw in Pittsburgh Saturday is what we saw at LSU. A little bit different, obviously, because he dominated a whole lot more. Obviously, he was a man amongst boys in college, and that's saying a lot pitching the SEC. He absolutely looked fantastic. There's going to be some growing pains for him still. Every pitcher, every ball player as a rookie, no matter what their hype is, no matter what their level is, there are going to be some growing pains. And Paul's not going to. He won't be the exception. He's going to have some moments where you look at it and go, "Man, you got to do a little bit better in this. You got to do a little bit." But my goodness, it's amazing that he's a big guy, and it's effortless how he throws 100 miles an hour. That's what I'm encouraged. And I hope we don't have injury history further along his career, because this is a special talent kid. But his body type and the way he pitches, it almost looks like I'm knocking on wood, he will prevent injury because it's an effortless pitching motion that he still explodes the ball out of his hand. And so you see guys that have to ramp up their body to throw 100 miles an hour. He doesn't. That's what's so incredible. Right? And that's why I made the comparison of Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens did not amp his body up to throw high 90s and 100 miles an hour when he was younger. It was effortless movement. The ball just exploded out. And that's the same thing with Paul. Like I said, there's going to be some growing pains, and I think that everybody's expecting that to be. But my goodness, he looked so good. Pittsburgh should be thanking themselves to have Paul, but at the same time, we've seen what he does, or we've seen what the franchise does when they have a young ace in their rotation. We saw this with Garrett Cole, and Cole ended up leaving on and moving on to Houston, and then eventually to New York. What's the future going to be for Paul? And everything, we don't know, but hopefully Pittsburgh does. They got a chance to right a wrong that they did with Garrett Cole with Paul Skeens, and that's the amazing part for this franchise is they have two generational type pitchers. They had one, and now they get blessed to do it all over again here. Hopefully they don't screw it up. They have a chance to do something special. But for Paul, what he did. it was actually a line I predicted: 7 strikeouts, 5 hits. He gave up 6, and I said about 5 innings he went for. It was exactly what I expected him to do, and I think it's going to be exciting to watch him pitch in the rest of the season in 2024.
Kind of on the other side of the spectrum, we have news that Rich Hill, who is 44 years old, he is looking to join a Major League Baseball team. And I was reading that story this morning, JG. I thought to myself, well, that's nice. That's nice that he's looking to join a Major League Baseball team. JG, 44 years old. Man, is that not a tall asking price for someone who, no offense to Rich Hill, he's had himself a nice Major League Baseball career, but I don't think he is a guy where you mention his name and people are like, whoa, we got to get Rich in the building. And then you add on the fact that he's 44 years old. Is this just a good for him, hope he finds somebody kind of thing? Or is this he could actually contribute to a contender kind of deal?
Well, that's the problem. Is I don't think a contender's really going to want him. I mean, he pitched last year for the Padres and Pirates. He was 8-14 with a 5.42 ERA. How's that going to help a contending team? And you could argue, well, it was he did go with the Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh at the back end was not really good. He didn't pitch really that well. Again, what do you have left in your arm at 44 years old? I don't know. Again, today's game doesn't work for low 90s pitchers anymore. And if you can move the ball around, you can survive in today's game. But you have to be able to throw at least 95. I don't think. And Hill was not that kind of pitcher when he was younger. And so we're looking at 44. What can he throw velocity wise? I don't think that's going to be the case. That he can be an asset to a contending team. Maybe if he wants to pitch, he's going to have to swallow his pride and just go to a team that he can stay in the game a little bit longer. I think there might be a team just to say, hey, come eat some innings for us and help us survive this season, and we'll give you a roster spot and you can come and pitch for in the rest of the 2024. But is a team like the Braves or the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Orioles or is it Phillies? Is anybody going to really want him to plug him in the rotation and say, hey, you're going to help us? No, I mean, at those points, a lot of those teams, and again, I'll use the Braves example. The Braves are using younger pitchers to fill in their hole that they have in the rotation. They're not going to go sign a 44-year-old to do it. So, good for him. Good for him that he wants to continue. I just don't see a contending team being a team that wants him. That's going to have, if a team is going to sign him, it's going to be a team that's not going to be competitive. That they're just like, hey, we need a body. Come be a body for us.
Could prime Greg Maddux make it in Major League Baseball today? A guy who I think many would argue he was the greatest at putting the ball where he needed to, moving it around. He was never going to blow you away with 100-mile-per-hour stuff, but he was going to pitch the crap out of you, and he was great at it. Could he find the same success in Major League Baseball in 2024?
Maddux would be the exception because of how he moved the ball. His sinker, his changeup, two-seamer. I mean, it had so much movement on it that he could pitch in today's game. Now, again, if he didn't have as much movement, then no. But the fact that he can make that ball run, 8-9 inches, 10 inches off from off the plate on, that was so ridiculous when he was able to manipulate the baseball and move it around the way that he did. So I would say yes, Greg Maddux would be the exception in today's game. The low 90s pitcher, but because of his movement, that would be again. I think he would still and how hitters are today, they don't even know how to touch that pitch. There was obviously the interview that he did years ago about they asked him, how do you view today's game versus what you did, and they go, he just goes, everybody knows what I threw. It was an 89, 90 miles an hour sinker. I'm going to start it on the inner half. I'm going to run it in on the plate, and you're going to swing and you're going to miss, or I'm going to break your bat, or I'll throw you that pitch off the plate about 8-9 inches, and it's going to touch that corner, and you'll stare at it. So Maddox is the exception, absolutely, to the rule of what today's pitchers is by the 95, 98, 100 miles an hour pitchers. Maddox would still pitch, and he would still thrive in today's game, absolutely.
Word is coming out of Miami Marlins camp, and I'm curious, JG, because usually what happens with teams who are looking to fire sale, rebuild, however you want to phrase it, there's always that idea of everybody but this person or everybody but these couple of people, because you got to have something in the cupboards to build around. But, give Miami credit. It appears they're going outside the box, JG, because nobody appears to be safe in Miami. Major League Baseball executives wholly believe that for the right price, everybody in the Marlins organization is up for sale if they're willing to pay for it. What does that even mean? How can you have an actual plan moving forward, JG, if you're really going to say, well, if the price is right, we'll move anybody, which means you're not really banking on having anyone particular on your roster next season. Sure, you might highlight 4 or 5 and be like, they'll probably be here. But in theory, if you're willing to sell anyone, what the heck is the plan moving forward?
Well, that's the problem with the Marlins is when they, and I said this with you guys before, when they have a plan and they abandon it, there is no plan following. So we've seen this as I threw out there with the World Series years, the 97 and the 03 World Series years. They won the World Series. What was the plan? Blow it up. That's not a plan. That's not a plan. And I understand the finances. Figure out how to make it better. And I know the market dictates in Miami that Marlins baseball is so far behind the other sports in Miami. And tell me if I'm wrong on that, Chris, because you're a Dolphins fan. Where would you rank? Marlins are not ahead of the Dolphins. The Marlins are not ahead of the Heat. And as of right now, you can probably say the Marlins are not ahead of the soccer team in Miami because of Lionel Messi right now. And also the culture
team might be the most popular team in Miami right now, in all honesty.
And that's absolutely that's the culture right there. So they're in an uphill battle, whereas they're the least most popular team in one of the bigger cities in the country, and they cannot get out of their own way to bring fans to the stadium. The new stadium did not work. They probably had more people show up to Pro Player Stadium in their time than they've had in the new stadium they have right now. I don't even know, and they changed the name so many times. I don't even know what the stadium's called now. But they have failed in their ability to draw people in. Which, guess what? There's two things that bring fans to stadiums: winning and star players. We haven't had a star player, and I guess you can really throw in there Giancarlo Stanton, and but even the late Jose Fernandez. And since then, Chaz Chisholm is not on the level of Giancarlo Stanton. He was certainly not on the level of Jose Fernandez. Jose Fernandez was a superstar in Miami. They loved him, and rest his soul for the obviously what happened years ago to him. But there's no superstars in there. And you can go before that. You can go to they had Miguel Cabrera. That was a long time ago. That Miguel's that he was playing in Miami. So superstars brings attendance, but also winning does. And you have to win consistently to bring in fans. And there's a culture of that. And there's no culture, because you can't sit there and tell me there's a winning culture. Even though they won 2 World Series in Miami, they blew up the team after 97. And they didn't win again for a while. They finally got the right pieces of Cabrera, Josh Beckett, A.J. Burnett, Pudge Rodriguez to win the World Series in 03. And then what do? They blew that up again after that. So there's no culture of winning. There's just culture of, as you just said, no plans. Just, hey, they kind of competed in 2023. They competed, and they were a playoff team. And then they just said, well, all right, we're done with that. We don't. Again, I feel like, as I said to you guys, I think it was last week or so, they're allergic to success. They're allergic to success. When they get success, they blow it up. And I feel like that's where fans are just like, well, no, we're not going to worry about that. We're not going to worry about it. We'll go to the Heat games right now. I know the Heat are not playing now, but the Heat are usually in the postseason at this point of the year. We'll go watch the Heat play. Soccer season's around. Well, go watch Lionel Messi play right now. So, and hey, training camps around the corner. You get more fans. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. Then my last point on it. They probably have more fans show up to training camp in Miami for the Dolphins than they do watch the Marlins play.
They probably do.
That's a problem. That's a problem. I don't know if the Marlins front office knows how to fix it because they cannot put winning teams together in a consistent years.
JG, every now and then I come across a baseball story that I just bring to you just to see your facial reactions, and we're going to close on that today. The Seattle Mariners parachuted in snacks to their fans over the weekend. I'm talking nachos. I'm talking hot dogs. I'm talking bags of peanuts parachuting from the sky. JG, we know how pure you are when it comes to your baseball beliefs. How do you feel about snacks being parachuted in to the fans in the stands?
So I was driving back to Texas. I'm back in Texas right now. I was driving back to Texas, and a Bleacher Report notification popped on my phone, and it said, hot dogs parachuted to fan. I damn near almost drove off the road. I was like, what? What are we doing?
They got to watch something at those Mariners games.
And but again, you said I'm a baseball purist. And again, the whole atmosphere for me is what I love. I've gone to, again, lived in DFW for over 10 years. I've gone to Rangers games when the Rangers were not a good team for a while. And it was 120 degrees and nobody really wanted to be there, not even the players, and the game sucked. But I love the atmosphere. You know what else I love? The atmosphere that takes place in ballparks. Hot dogs, get your hot dogs here. Peanuts, you love that. And that's why I do love going to Wrigley. I've gone to Wrigley Field to watch the Braves and Cubs play a handful of times. I love Wrigley because it is that atmosphere of old school feeling. Like you're almost still in the 60s and 70s of baseball, and it's just this authentic atmosphere. I love that. So cool. I think it's cool that you're innovative to the technology that you have. You can use a drone or whatnot, and then parachute a hot dog. I don't know how I feel about that, because what happens if what if there's a gust of wind and you have I like ketchup and mustard on my hot dog. So what happens if a gust of wind hits the drone or the parachute, tilts the hot dog, and the mustard and ketchup falls on a patron right next to me or whatnot? Now I have to explain to them I'm sorry while I'm eating my hot dog, and that's going to ruin my hot dogs experience. So like I said, I think it's pretty cool, but give me the people that shouts out hot dogs, and give me and I know they don't even do that anymore. They don't even sell the hot dogs right there. You have to go to the concourse to get the hot dog now. But just give me the old school experience. I hate. Again, I know people laugh at me about it because, why not? This is brand new. This is awesome. This is cool. No, I love the old school feeling of it. I love that. I wish, again, I'm only 33, so I got to, I didn't get the experience. I wish I could have gone to baseball games in the 70s. I wish I could have. In the 80s too. I wish I would have got that experience to kind of get to that. Just that mentality of it. I'd love to go see it in the 20s and 30s. And just kind of just be able to have that atmosphere of what it was, that old school mentality atmosphere. I love it. But you know what? Kudos to the Mariners for trying something new and being innovative on how to I guess enhance today's fans.
100%, JG. We appreciate having you here, sir. We'll see you next time. All right.
Have a good one, JG.
Appreciate it, guys.
Come on, Mo. Would you like to have your hot dog parachuted to you during a game? Come on.
I think it would be interesting, but the nacho things could be dangerous. You know what I'm saying? That hot cheese goes the wrong way, and it's not a good experience for anybody.
You are speaking the truth, sir. We talked a little bit about Zay Jones last week and some of the stops that he was making around the NFL free agent market. Well, Mo, he landed on a team. He signs with the Arizona Cardinals, which I think is the best place for him as far as the impact he is going to make this season. The Cardinals don't have the greatest wide receiver weapons, but they did just draft a pretty good one. And now you're taking a guy like Zay Jones who can help out of the slot and do some different things. I think he saw opportunity there. He was also talking to Kansas City. He was also talking to Dallas. I think Buffalo would have been a good fit for him as well. But I think he's going to go into Arizona. He's going to have opportunity. If he can take advantage of them, I think he's going to have himself a nice season with the Cardinals.
I think he'll be really productive for them. And don't forget, one of Kyler Murray's strength is his ability to make the off-schedule plays. I think those scramble drills, I think that's when Zay Jones will become even more valuable. A guy like Zay Jones catches the ball in space, can make people miss. So I think it's a good marriage. I like the pairing. He's going to, and all the attention that Marvin Harrison, even though he's a rookie, is going to draw, it gives Zay more opportunities to make plays.
Mo, here's what we're going to do next. I didn't tell you about this. I'm just going to throw it at you. We're going to see how you respond to it. I'm going to give you 8 bold predictions. They are not my bold predictions. I do not agree with all of these bold predictions. These bold predictions come from Gary Davenport. He is a sports journalist. He came up with 8 way too early predictions for the NFL season. Mo, here we go. Prediction number 1. Joe Burrow is going to rebound from his injury to lead the NFL in passing yards in 2024. Are you buying or selling that prediction?
I'll buy it. I expect Joe Burrow to bounce back. And I think Cincinnati, the organization as a whole, will do everything in their power to embolden Joe, set him up for success. You still have the 2 great wideouts, even though you lost Tyler Boyd. I think they're going to bolster up the offensive line. Joe Mixon is a loss. He is, because he was like a safety valve for him. But I expect Joe Burrow to have a really big season.
Now, it's interesting because you just said that. Prediction number 2, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win the AFC North. Buying or selling?
I'm a Mike Tomlin fan, but I'm going to sell. I think they have a good season, but I don't think they're going to win the division.
If Joe Burrow does what you just said he's going to do, and then the Ravens are just the Ravens.
Right. You're not winning.
The Steelers are finishing 3rd at best.
Correct.
Now, 3rd at best could still be a playoff team, Mo.
True.
They could still be a wild card team, but they ain't winning that division. They're not sniffing that division if Joe Burrow does that.
And let's preface that with if everybody's healthy and there's
Right.
no major injuries, they're not winning the division.
100%. Prediction number 3, Marvin Harrison Jr. will set new rookie receiving records across the board. Let me tell you what those records would have to be. The current receiving record is 1,486 yards. The catch record is 104, and the touchdown record is currently 17. Those were set by Puka Nacua last year for the yards, Jalen Waddle 2 years ago for the receptions, and Randy Moss back in 1998 for the touchdowns. Can he top all 3 of those in his first season with Kyler Murray?
It's possible, but I don't think so. I think
he's selling. He's selling.
I'm selling. I think he's going to have a terrific year. I don't think he's going to have a record-breaking terrific year. Like, if he could just equal what Puka Nacua did, that would be amazing. Now you're talking about him getting the trifecta. I don't think so.
Prediction number 4, the Dallas Cowboys. Dem Cowboys, Mo, are going to miss the playoffs.
Okay, I'll buy that. I'll buy it. I mean, I feel like this is one of those weird years where Dallas, usually you can book them for 10 or 11 wins, but it might be a weird year where, because they didn't do too much in free agency, I don't see the addition of weapons. Everybody talked about who's going to be the number 2 to CeeDee Lamb. We don't know. They don't have a number 2. And bringing back Zeke, I think Zeke will be solid for them, but I still think their running game is not going to be a strength.
Dallas Cowboys Vice President Stephen Jones recently talked to the media about what the expectations are for the team this year with Dak Prescott leading the team. And he said, and we can talk about this, Mo. We are allowed to say these things.
Sure.
I don't think that Stephen is allowed to say these things. He kind of let the 3 consecutive seasons of 12 wins prop him up. He said, we've won 12 games the past 3 seasons. That's how we opened it. I didn't like that, Mo. Don't prop yourself up with what you've done the last 3 seasons,
Right.
because the next thing you know, you're going to be off to a 1-4 start, and you're going to be like, well, this got weird fast.
Yeah, look, you can't rest on your laurels either. The Cowboys have been very good, and you're right. Three seasons of 12 wins, that's great. You got to tell me what the team looks like right now, what you expect to do this current season. I really don't think they have as high as expectations they put out to their fans. I really don't. I think that they're probably looking at a season where being honest, I think they might just barely miss the playoffs this year. I do.
Prediction number 5, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. will set a new record for sacks by teammates in Houston. The current record is 39 by a duo.
I'm buying that.
Ooh,
I think
that's a big buy. That's a big buy, Mo.
It is a big buy, but you're talking about two guys that are kind of freaks in nature. D'Amico Ryans is going to have those guys hunting. So and remember, with that offense, if it takes off, if you're hunting and the other team is playing from behind,
That's
you can peel your ears back and hunt even more. So I'm going to buy.
Prediction number 6, Caleb Williams will lead the Chicago Bears to the playoffs.
This isn't me not killing Caleb Williams or Bears fans.
Here he goes.
I'm just gonna sell on that. I don't think they're gonna go to the playoffs. But if he proves me wrong, he will literally be everything people projected him to be, and that's a great thing. That's a great thing for the city of Chicago. But you're asking a lot, and I know they propped him up in a great way with all the weapons that he already has at his disposal. I'm looking at it from the outside. I have some concerns still about the offensive line, and I'm also looking at the competition within the division. I don't think they go to the playoffs.
But he will pass for 4,000 yards.
Yes, I do think I will agree with that. I think he will be the first Bears quarterback to pass for over 4,000 yards. I agree.
Prediction number 7, Aaron Rodgers will win his 5th MVP award and lead the New York Jets to a Super Bowl appearance.
Man, that is a mighty prediction.
That's a lot. That's a lot to bite and chew there.
Yeah, not just the MVP, but he's going to win Well, I'll say this. Should he win, never mind the MVP, but if he leads them to a Super Bowl, he will be a god amongst men, right? He'll be the only guy that can come in the room and sit next to Joe Namath and go, you know what I mean? Like, Joe knows what I'm talking about.
Just smirk at him.
Right. I'm gonna say no. I'm selling on that one. I don't think so. I think Aaron Rodgers is still can play at a high level, but I think he would do well to just make it through the season healthy.
Well, if you thought that was a big bite, Mo, the last one's going to be the biggest bite of them all. The Detroit Lions will advance to their first ever Super Bowl and win it.
That is a big bite. Look, this is where you take off your Homer jersey. I don't think that's going to happen. I actually lean in another way. I think Detroit had an amazing season last year. I know a lot of people think it's the beginning of them.
Oh, he's calling for the regression.
Like dominating the conference. I think that they're going to be a very good team. I don't think they win as many games as they won last year. So they're not going to the Super Bowl. I mean, they're not going to beat my team. So you know.
Mo's like, hold the phone. Y'all ain't getting past the Niners. Let's just stop right there.
I don't know if we're going to win the Super Bowl, but they're not beating us, so they're not winning the Super Bowl.
Mo, let's pivot to some NBA stuff. Let's catch up on everything that happened from Friday until yesterday. Let's go back to Friday night. Number 1, the Nuggets got on the board in their series Friday night, not just knocking off the Minnesota Timberwolves, but blowing the doors off of the Minnesota Timberwolves. 3 games in this series, and we got 3 blowouts along the way. Also on Friday night, the Pacers got themselves back into their series. They got a win against the Knicks, like you projected, sir. They came out on fire at home, and it was bumpy at times during that game, but the end, they were able to stabilize and get the victory, which led us into Saturday, where the Celtics I wouldn't say they reasserted themselves over the Cavs. There were some moments in that game where you're like, are they really going to go down 2-1 to Cleveland? But they pulled it out. They did what they had to do. The Celtics went up 2-1. And then to the surprise of some, the Mavs went up 2-1 against the Thunder on Saturday. So, Mo, let's start there. Let's start with the Dallas series. Are you the some that are surprised the Mavs went up 2-1? Did you think OKC was going to wrap this up in 5 games or so? Or were you in the mindset of this was going to be a series?
I thought it was going to be a series all along. I had the Mavs winning in 7. Did I have the Mavs immediately taking home court away from them? I didn't. I didn't see that, but they did that. And then they turned around and won the other night. So now they're up 2-1. And tonight, I believe they play. I think the Mavericks have a chance to take a stranglehold over the series. And look, if you look at the two teams, top to bottom, Oklahoma City is the younger, deeper, more athletic team. And yet, because you have the kind of players that the Mavs have at the top of the roster, Luka and Kyrie, who can take over at different junctions of the game. And not to mention, they're getting very, very timely shooting from PJ Washington. Daniel Gafford has played well. Tim Hardaway Jr., there was a sighting. He's playing better. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is a lot like the young man for Cleveland, Karis LeVert. There are nights when he looks like one of the better players in the league, and then there are nights when you wonder how he ever got in the league. He just kind of goes through both extremes. Look, I'm not shocked at all that the Mavs are where they are. I think the series is far from over because I still think it's a 7-game series. But I just think that you have to give Jason Kidd some credit. They're being more physical with the younger Oklahoma City team, and you can tell it's bothering them. It isn't bothering Shai Gilgeous, but it's bothering Jalen Williams. They've basically made Josh Giddey seem non-existent. Chet Holmgren shoots well from the perimeter, but he really can't go in the post because he doesn't really have the strength or body strength to do that. So I think they're being the more physical team. So I'm not surprised the series is where it is right now.
And then we had last night, Mo. We had last night where the tides were completely shifted in 2 of these series. The Nuggets come back from down 0-2 to tie up their series 2-2 against Minnesota. 2 games ago, Mo, we were looking at this series after 2 dominating Minnesota performances saying, holy cow, this is over. There's no way Denver is coming back. After game 1, you were like, that's weird. Okay.
Right.
But then after game 2, you were like, no, this is legit. They have figured out the system. Denver's doing nothing against that defense this series. This is done. Well, here we are 2 games later, and Mo, it's 2-2. We said you give the Nuggets game 3, you let them figure it out before they go down 3-0 or 0-3. They're gonna try to. They're gonna push. Well, they pushed, and here they are, 2-2. You have to think momentum's on Denver's side. Is it done? Is it gonna be Denver? Do you see Minnesota checking them and righting the ship after 2 games and being able to do something in game 5?
So if you ask me after 4 games, would I be shocked to find this series tied 2-2? No, because I had it going 7. I picked the defending champ Nuggets to win it, but I had it going 7. But if you had told me that both road teams would have taken both games, no way I would have saw that. If you told me that the T-Wolves would take both games in Denver and then go home and get dominated at home, nobody would call that. There's no way you could call that. This has literally been a series of 2 different series. Minnesota looked like world beaters in the first 2 games of the series, and we were both like, it doesn't look good, right? It doesn't. If you're a Nuggets fan, I'm not saying it's over. And I remember saying that, but it didn't look good. And then you saw game 3 where the Nuggets they fought back. I think great players get challenged and respond. And I thought that not just Joker, but I thought Jamal Murray responded. I thought they got a better effort from Aaron Gordon, from Porter Jr. Those guys responded. Last night, Aaron Gordon only missed 1 shot the entire game. He was terrific around the rim. Defensively, they were more active too. It's interesting because Rudy Gobert is the defensive player of the year. He's one of the best rim protectors in all of basketball. And yet I actually think that when he's on the floor, Denver can figure them out better. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because when he's not on the floor, Minnesota's much quicker. They're just more active defensively. Gobert can only play in certain spots on the floor. He can't really play in space. And I think that Denver's taking advantage of that. And Joker seems to have figured out the matchup. If you're going to guard me with one guy, but bring Gobert over from the weak side, I'm not gonna make my move to the last minute. And if he comes too close, I'm gonna lob over the top or backdoor hit somebody with a backdoor cut. And he's just picking them apart. It's interesting to see that the one guy on the Timberwolves, Chris, that's not, how can I say it? He's not on his heels, is Anthony Edwards. And he's the young guy. He's 22 years old, and he's not phased at all. Like, he's here for it. Even though they lost last night, there was no question. I thought Anthony Edwards was the best player on the floor. He was, including Joker. He was terrific. There's no way to call this series. All I can say is I'm sticking with my pick, but I have no clue what's going to happen in Game 5. I will say this. History tells us the team that wins Game 5, nine times out of 10 wins the series. So that's how big Game 5 is.
We finally got some love for those small town, hometown franchises, Mo. Finally, some love for the small town team. The Pacers even up the series 2-2 with the Knicks. It wasn't pretty last night if you were a New York Knicks fan. Momentum has definitely swung in that series, but again, we're back even. So we go from a 7-game series to now we go to a 3-game series.
Right.
Who can win the next 2 of 3? So when you're looking at the reset for the Pacers and Knicks series, has the last 2 games by the Pacers convinced you that they can win the series?
I think it convinced me that they have an advantage. I don't know that it means they're going to win the series, because just by attrition, they have an advantage. The Knicks lost Mitchell Robinson. They lost OG Anunoby. They're not going to be back for the rest of the series. They already were without Julius Randle, and Bogdanovich is out. So they're down 4 guys that would normally be in their rotation. And you've got guys playing 40-plus minutes. I know people are criticizing Tom Thibodeau's coaching style. I'm not going to criticize his coaching style. I'm just going to say that his coaching style does bear a lot of success. I also think that his coaching style has a ceiling. So while I don't think the series is over, and look, a loss is a loss, but if you get the brakes beat off of you, I think that if you're going to lose that way so you come back motivated for the next game. So I actually expect to get the Knicks' very best effort in Game 5. I think the Knicks win Game 5 and the Pacers go home and win Game 6, and we're going to be on track for an epic 7-game series.
Tonight, Mo, we got the Celtics and Cavs, Game 4. Who do you like?
I'm going to go with the Celtics. It seems like the default, like, right? We're going to always say, like, going to go with the Celtics because they're supposed to win. So I'm going to go with the Celtics because they're supposed to win. They're the better team. Do I know if the better team's going to show up? I have no clue. I expect they will, but if Donovan Mitchell gets one other player to show up and drop 20, they might lose because he has no problem getting his. And I told people coming into the series, you can tell me the Celtics have multiple guys you can throw at him. You can, and none of them can guard him. They can't. So what he needs is he needs just a little bit of help. If he gets a little bit of help, it's going to be an interesting series.
We also got Game 4, Thunder Mavs. Will the Thunder even it up, or will the Mavs take that stranglehold?
I'll say this for the young Thunder. If they're going to find a way to win this series, they have to win the night. That's what I believe. If they go down 3-1, you can kiss the baby. It's over. If they go down 3-1, the Mavs are going to win this series, and we're going to have it's going to set up for a very interesting conference final. When you think of Luka versus either Joker or Ant-Man, that's a very compelling TV. So I think this is absolutely must win. For me, it's series deciding for Oklahoma City. If they lose tonight, it's over.
Mo, also around the NBA, the Hawks. You don't get to hear a lot of good things happening for the Hawks, but the Hawks have won the NBA draft lottery, baby. My question for you, Mo, is very simple. Does it change anything? They won the draft lottery. There's already rumors they're going to be shipping off one, if not both of their stars in this offseason. That's my question for you. Does having the number 1 pick in the draft change that mindset? Or are you looking at it going, Chris, it doesn't matter who they take in the draft. It's not going to really impact anything.
And initially I thought, well, you know what? I don't know if they've ever had the number 1 pick, right? Like that's kind of amazing.
I think it's the first time since 1975.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
But then I looked at where the projected draft order, I'm talking about players where they would fall. There are some very good players that are coming out this season. But I ask you, is there anybody coming out of college that you would call transcendent, that you would call like he's almost like Wemby or close to being anywhere near Wemby? The answer is no. There's some very good players that are going to come out and be very good at the next level, but I don't think there's a transcendent player. And I say that to say this: if I'm Atlanta, you can still look to move Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. I would look to move the pick and try to get another established star or something like that, because there's nobody in the draft that's coming out where you're like, man, as soon as we get this guy, he's gonna he what's that line you always say? He moves the needle. I don't see anybody like that that's gonna have an instant impact, especially on a team like Atlanta. The way their roster construction. I know a lot of people are talking about the young man that's a terrific rebounder, shot blocker, and I was like, well, you already got Capella, you already got a Conway. You want 3 guys like that? Like I don't understand. That's kind of part of the reason why Atlanta is Atlanta. They probably would do that. I'm hoping they take a different path and go, let's be smart. Let's trade the pick for an established star. And you know what I mean? Let's do a different kind of reset, not a complete rebuild, but a reset.
Mo, it also came out over the weekend that the Pelicans are expected to aggressively pursue a trade that will move off of Ingram. What do you think the market is for Ingram this offseason? We know why the Pelicans would like to move off of him, but again, just because you want to move a player doesn't mean you can move a player, because someone has to want the player. What is the market for Ingram? What do you think they can get back for him? Do you think it's just going to be as simple as, if we can move him, we'll take whatever we're offered? Or do you think they're going to be holding out for a certain type of offer?
No, I still think BI has value. Like, we're talking about a guy who can drop 24 a night, get you 5 assists, 5 rebounds, a scorer. And I believe he's still around 26, 27. He's a young man. The question is, what would they get in return? I think they could get a couple of picks, maybe an expiring contract or something like that. And they probably would take the picks. Or maybe they would get a couple of picks and maybe add some more rotation depth. What they need is a point guard. So maybe in that package, they're looking for a point guard as well. I think that if you're a suitor or somebody that's interested in BI, I think he's a terrific third option. A lot of people thought he was a number 1 option. I think BI is a terrific third option. He would be a great fit in Philly as a third option. He would be a great fit in New York as a third option. I think there are contenders that would look to take him. The question is this, though: when you bring in a guy like Brandon Ingram, who sees himself as a star, and he's still young, and you bring him in and we go, we want you here, but this is the role we have envisioned for you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if somebody brings them in and go like, we love you, we want you here, but here we kind of want you to be our Chris Bosh, right? You know what I mean? Like, we don't want you to be the number 1 or number 2 option. We want you to be the other guy, somebody we can rely on, but we don't run the offense through. I think he's terrific in that kind of situation, because sometimes Brandon Ingram can just drift in and out of games. He's just not built. He's not built to be a number 1 option, and I don't think he's consistent enough to be a number 2. So I like him as a number 3.
Mo, let's close out the show on a Monday morning with this. World Wrestling Entertainment, about a week ago now, they released Gable Stevenson. This kind of went under the radar. You may know that name because Gable is an Olympic wrestler. He is a collegiate wrestler. He goes to the University of Minnesota. It was a very touted signing 3 years ago when they signed him on the heels of his Olympic performance. He went back to Minnesota to finish out his collegiate career. and he has been in WWE developmental ever since. He has appeared sparingly on TV over the past 3 years. He has more recently appeared on NXT, but with the releases in the first week of May, his name was quietly in there, and he is no longer a WWE performer. Then we get some news from Booker T over the weekend. Booker T works closely in NXT, so he would have had a front row seat to what Gable was doing down there. And Booker said some pretty cryptic things. Booker basically said, it's tough because when you're a guy like that and you got so much going for you, your foot is always kind of in one door and halfway out the other. And then Booker also alluded to the fact that he simply wasn't developing as a professional wrestler because he wasn't able to put all of his time and effort into it. Mo, I'm not saying that WWE needed to be the end-all, be-all for him, and I'm not saying he had the skills to even do it. But at the same time, you have seen other wrestlers with great amateur backgrounds have great success in WWE. So all I gotta say is this, Mo. If his passion wasn't there, I get it. Go find your passion. Go live your passion. Go be your passion. But hopefully he can find something, because that's a lot of money that he just passed up on. And that's a lot of opportunity that he just allowed to slip away. So hopefully whatever the next chapter is for him, he will find success doing it. Also worth noting, Mo, 3 NFL teams have reportedly reached out to him about training camp invites as well.
Wow.
So interesting. Very interesting for this young man.
Yeah.
He's only 23 years old.
Only 23 years old. Obviously, he's an elite athlete. Just by the fact that 3 NFL teams are interested in him coming to training camp, it does offer him another avenue should he choose to pursue it. The thing about WWE or any other wrestling federation, I would say this is, you could have all the promise in the world, but when they bring you in, there's also some other people there that are your age that are just as hungry as you, and maybe they're not highly as touted as you, but they might put in more work. Like you can't get caught slipping. That's all I'm saying. Like if you just come in there feeling entitled, or you just don't put in the work, that somebody will come up and take your spot. It literally goes down. It goes down like that. You can go from, we're getting ready to give this guy a push and put him on the main roster, to, yeah, this guy doesn't have it, but this person right here, who we thought might have it, is just blown up. I mean, that it really does happen like that. And it could be as simple as, maybe he's still a terrific wrestler, Chris, but when it comes to the other aspects of WWE, maybe he's horrible behind the mic. There's so much that goes into it other than your wrestling skills. It really is a lot harder than people realize. Like I think a lot of people on the outside just look like, well, it's not real or something like that. There's so much more to it. And I would argue, whatever you think of professional wrestling, I would say that these are some of the greatest athletes in the world, in my opinion, men and women. These are some of the greatest athletes in the world. What they do, what they put their bodies through, Chris, week in and week out. So I just think maybe he had the talent, but he might not have had the drive.
I mean, most of them are the greatest athletes in the world. If you haven't seen Chris Jericho lately, you might feel a little differently about that. But I digress. Mo, right. Great show on a Monday. Close us out, sir.
Thank you guys so much for joining Chris and I this morning on the morning show. Make sure you check out all the great content that we have at the Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
Make sure you're back here same time, same place tomorrow. JG is back with us again. We're going to break down both the American League and the National League, see where things are currently standing. We're going to recap the playoff games from tonight. All of that and more. Coffee and sports. It's the morning show, powered by Wire to Wire Network.